Well, here's the beginning of some, well, not the beginning, a little bit past the beginning, but some wife came home the other day and said the vehicle wasn't heating. And the first time I want to look at whenever the heat isn't working is that there's not enough antifreeze, not enough coolant, and therefore it's not getting in the heater core and exchanging the heat. And sure enough, it was low, but there's a reason. When I checked it the first time, this right here I'm shining a light on, we'll call that the Y pipe. That's connected right there. All one piece going back around there and to right there. So that is all one piece. So I actually went ahead and ordered that hose. It looked like it was actually weeping around that connection right there. But now I came home, I've done 2 test drives with this over a couple days, and now I've discovered wetness. So now I've discovered wetness. That area right there has had somewhere. I just come back, and now you can definitely see, some wetness down in there, back in this area, and back in here, not on that. So this is actually clear. I haven't changed that out, but it kind of looks like it's, again, like on vehicles these days, it's the crimp. What it looks like now is we've actually got crimp right there where the radiator is crimped on the side plastic piece. Like a lot of these things these days is where it's leaking from. And that probably got back on some hoses during driving and splattered up, and that's why the other stuff was wet. But that appears to be the source. I've already taken the air intake off. That's an 8mm that's holding that on. And then started using the tools to get these out of the way. So you can also see down in the front. I'm gonna go ahead and take this whole thing off while I'm assessing it. Now I actually just started it back up again to see if this just confirmed the leak location, make sure it's not one of the transmission cooler or something else in front of it that's spraying back, just to make sure. But I'm gonna go ahead and take this off. All right, a few days have passed since working on the coolant leak. Had to go on and do some other work and regular work and all that. So this has been sitting until I could do one more assessment on that. I'll make sure between whether or not I have a leak from the hose connection to the barb that's connected into the radiator, or whether it's the female threads or around the base of the metal fitting, whether there's a crack in the plastic part around that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go take this thing for a test drive, and I need to get it up, not just sitting here and warming up, but for I want to get it up to temperature, run it kind of hard, get it hot. Well, it's not going to get overheated, but get it hot and get it back up here. Because the last time what happened was, as soon as I turned it off and you don't have the airflow, that's when it heated up more, and the pressure, that's when it started to leak. So I'm going to be driving hard, get it hot, get it up here, and as soon as I turn the vehicle off, I'm going to be going to get the hood open. And now that the parts are out of the way up there, I'm going to video and see if I can watch this happening and see exactly what portion it's coming from. So let's go do a test. All right, we just took the drive, got it up to temperature, drove it a little bit harder, or faster acceleration, harder, things like that to really get this up to temperature. So I'm sitting here for just a second with the RPM up. So here in a second, I'm gonna go ahead and pop the hood. All right, we're gonna go open it up. All right, so I'm working on getting everything removed here, and just so you know, these are the push pins. Release that top, pull it up. These come out really easy. And then these covers just pull out of the slots, just like that, pulling back. Now I'm leaving the bottom connected. I'm not messing with that because I may not have to. And then I'm going across the top on this mount, so these are a little bit different. These are more push pin. I'm trying to let something roll off. Of course it's going to stay. Okay. Yeah, these are the same push pins here. You just got to pull them up. You'll hear one click and then a second click, and that's really when they kind of release. But I'm getting those all the way across the top. I drained this the day before. I just started unhooking some of the hoses and got to get all the hoses up. But I'm going ahead and taking the front grill out, getting that out of the way. I want to look at some other things here. To do that, you've got the removal of these pieces up here, and then you're going to have to do a lift to get that over top of these little connections here. A little bit of a lift up. The trim frame that comes around here is a pop out from the top. You know, use one of the tools or some gloved hands, like a little bit. Don't force it, a little bit at a time. And then coming around the bottom, and once you get starting towards the side of the last one, both sides I had to do a little upward rotation to pull this last one out, but that's out. And then the last thing holding this is the bolt on each side that's removed here. But something else that has to be done is I've got to remove the plugs for the louver fans. And also, this was an after factory. Someone installed these lights in there. And the way that they're wired is just straight over here into the headlight switch. But man, they use these things. It's terrible. Just terrible. So I'm going to take this out of the system. It's just going, the ground is just going over to a ground right here. But I'm going to take this out and make this into a proper connection here. And then turn this into a Deutsch connector, male, female. So that this can be unplugged in the future and not have to disconnect. We could just unplug it down in here or something. So we're gonna make something for that. But next steps. All right, quick note after getting this wire out of the way here. I'm not surprised after seeing one of those used that when I went to go unhook the ground right here, has nothing but wire wrapped around the screw. No connector or anything on it. Yeah, so we're definitely gonna fix this. Little things. It's nice to find these little things along the way, and before there actually is a problem with them. Besides the mess you see in the wire back there, that was some. Again, we just bought this not too long ago, and someone had used, we'll say like speaker power wire, and one of the views like that to run for the a brake controller, and just ran it on top of the engine. I unhooked the power from it. That's something maybe I'll swap got this down and we'll go ahead and pull that stuff out and rewire that. But that is deactivated wire back there. In fact, my wife, one day, she said, there's a sound every time I stop, every time I accelerate. And it was actually this wire moving back and forth on the top there. But just getting the tank off here, and I happened to notice when I turned it around, look at that. It looks like someone has had a little bit of silicone. Yep, you can feel the sponginess of it. So hard to tell if somebody's done some excess somewhere or some work on this before or from factory. I kind of don't know, but I'm going to have to pick that out of there. Right, so close to pulling the old radiator out. Still, was figuring out things, and I really didn't look up a lot when I was working on this, even prepping for it. But you have the condenser that's in the front, and I've had to take out the bolt here, and there's one in the top for it that you've got to lean the radiator back to get to this mount for the condenser there. That's out now. Oh look, there's some creatures building some kind of a thing on there. We've got the cooler lines off, top and bottom. You can see that. Well, I did an attempt with some JB Weld to see if that little crack around that would do it, but it didn't work at all. But what takes a lot of time with this is a lot of this air dam stuff in here. I've taken off this whole piece on this side. Now I need to go ahead and take out this. Now I notice that this stuff is pretty worn on this side, and I think whoever did the wiring in the three little lights most likely had that off, had some of this disconnected, and actually never hooked it back, because just from the wear and stuff in it, I don't think it was done back all the way. But I'll get that out, and I'm super close. Now this right here, the way this mounted in these slots, there's two of them. There's one here, clip on the radiator that it sits into, but there's also one on the top. And that one actually has a top, see if I can see it, well, it's kind of hard to see now, but an actual clip that'll hold the top end from coming up. So I actually had to put the little pry bar, one of the little pry tools on there to get that to release. Now, to hold up this end of this, because this was all supported by the radiator, I've got a wire tie up here around the mount bracket. Can I get in there to see that? Well, let's go this way. Oh, yeah, there's a mount bracket back in there. So it has been wire tied up to hold that in place. And I think I'm pretty good to go. Now the fan shroud, actually just unhooked it, unbolted it, and leaned it back. I went ahead and took out the air filter housing, all of this in here, just to get it back out of the way. And I forgot to mention earlier, battery is unhooked. I'm working around a fan. Anything, I don't think anything will happen, but just safety protocols. But I think I'm getting ready to try to take this thing out. So pray for me a little bit. All right. One thing I will mention before go on, boy, there's a couple of these hose connections I just had a real bear with. Now I did decide to go ahead and take off the Y pipe. I'll show you that part when we go to put it back together. But it's coming from over here at the bottom of the tank, the degas bottle, hooking to here from the pump, and then going to the heater core through a connection right behind that plug back there. That's all one piece, and I thought, you know what? I thought I had a leak at where it hooks to the degas bottle, but that actually ended up just being moisture that was left over from the leak that's actually in the front. So I've already got the new Y pipe. Remember, there's a lot of O-ring problems with those, and I just thought, you know what? I'm going to get it out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and put the new part on when we put it back together, so it's a new Y pipe. But boy, this one here, I had to cut that one off. This one actually right here was even worse. So that corrosion at the end there. So I'm actually glad I did that. The new one is in. I mean, it's dropped down into place, and I'm actually quite happy how well this went back. So this really has worked, just leaning this back and having that room to slide this down in. Of course, I don't think I mentioned taking this bracket off earlier to the cooler, but so just a little bit of light, set it down in there, light side to side, and just barely keep working each side to see what fit. And then one of the issues that wouldn't seem like it would go, let's see if I can get in here to it, is this little area right in here. I had to use the pry bar just a little bit just to nudge it over to get it to set into the socket on this side, and then it's in. So I'm going to start getting bolts mounted back for the condenser. It's already in the slots over here, and that should be something to mention. To get that up in place, I put it in these slots over here first, here, and the one up on top. And then this is almost hanging straight where it needs to be. So I'm going to start getting some bolts back in. I do got to remember to get this condenser bolt here at the top in, because once this radiator sets back, when it sets up into place and it's in there, you can't get to it. So let's get to assembling. All right, again, it's been 2 or 3 days breaking this project. Man, it's so hard to go big breaks in between stuff, trying to remember where you were at, but carrying on with it. It was very cold today, just right at freezing. But I'm getting ready to go ahead and put in. I've already got the upper and lower hose on. Got the clip back in, and that was all went in just fine. I'll show you something on these hoses in a minute, but right now I'm going to go ahead and put the new Y pipe in. So why is it a Y pipe? Because it's shaped like a Y. This end is going underneath there, and that's going to the heater core. Mounting bolt right here at my pinky, if you can see it, where that'll mount there to it. Splitting off to the connection right there, which I'm going to clean up that end. It's a little bit gunky looking to make sure that that gets a flat seat, but I can also push it up just a smidge farther. Then this part here will connect to the bottom of the degas bottle that mounts on top. Now, before I put in the Y pipe, I'm gonna go ahead and show you something here with these three. This is the clamps that come off. These are great. I mean, they're very strong. They've got a lot of spring into them. In fact, this one's been set out all the way so it locks. Then you can unlock that. It's a little bit hard to do, but then it's going to clamp back. But I have a whole kit here with all kinds of junk piled on top of it, but all the little springy, clampy tools. And the thing is, the only thing I don't like about these really heavier duty ones is that out in the field somewhere, if I've got to do something, I'm not going to have that kit with me. And with a pair of pliers, sometimes these can be real challenges. And anyone knows, so I'm actually putting these style back on that have the even compression ring on the inside with grip and that traditional kind of thing on the outside. Those work really well. So that's what I'm putting back in place for those. They do a nice even clamp around there. But what I don't want to do is these without that compression sleeve. Now I put one in just to put it in place because I knew I was going to go get the other ones, but I didn't have one, so I just put it in place and just tightening it a little bit with my, I'm not going to say hand strength, but without a lot. It didn't take long for those to really mess those up. So, and then you just don't get the same even compression on a 360-degree circle squeezing in on something. It kind of pulls and drags as it slides around. So don't like those. They're okay in some other situations, but I'm just threw that one behind me. But I am moving on to, I'm gonna go ahead and get the Y pipe installed. All right, so I'm back on the heater core connection part of the Y. We'll see if she just snaps in. Well, I can't do it one-handed. But one thing I did want to mention is, fortunately, these come, you can see down in it, you probably can't see the glisten, but those come pre-lubricated. So they do have already some lubrication on the O-ring that helps it seat better. So let me get this end on. All right, one thing to note, this is the old hose that come off, and this is the connection to the heater core. And this is the part that will be on the male fitting from the heater core connection. This piece stays on, and this is the part that is squeezed, and then this is released off of it. Now the new one is a lock ring that's built into this part that just expands and clips over the ridge that is on the connection. But just make sure if you're having trouble getting the new one on, that's the upgraded fitting, this piece will have to come off. It's a little bit tough to get off. Excuse me, actually it should be positioned that way. Nope, the other way, never mind. Nope, this way, yep. I was upside down when I was going in there for it. I bent this a little bit, but this would go in that direction, and that's why that bevel is there for the O-rings to go over. But this piece, well, I bent the tabs out to give a grip to pull this piece off, and then the other part went on just fine. Okay, Y pipe is on, clamped, that cleaned off, clamped. This is going to be the connection for the bottom of the degas bottle. Tighten down on that corner bracket. And now, this is really where everything really kind of started. Got both of these cooler lines hooked up and clamped. That's back on there. So I'm getting ready to put the degas bottle on it. And a lot of these things like the air, I'm going to call them air dams. I don't know what to call them really, but these shields, excuse me, it's down there. These shields are all in here clipped in to direct the airflow straight into the radiator. So they're keeping it from there and directing straight in. I'm going to leave those for now. I'm going to get this thing to a stage where I can start getting fluid in it, do a test run sitting here to see if I have any major leaks. I don't want to put the grill back in and all that in yet if I've got some issues. So getting ready to put the degas bottle in. I was getting ready to put it in and almost forgot that earlier in the video I had showed where there was a glob of silicone at the entrance of this, and I'd almost put it back in with some of that still down in the fitting. Now, I couldn't find anything that tells me that this piece of aluminum or whatever I see in here is a one-way valve or anything like that. It just looks like the air line to burp air out of the pump system down there. Somebody correct me on that down in the comments, but This looks more like a splint for this long piece of plastic than it does any kind of other control. But I had forgotten to get the rest of that in there, so I just went in with a straight pick, loosened it, turned it upside down, hand turning the drill bit just to keep pulling each little bit out, and now it sees clear. I can see through it, and everything that I got out was silicone. So I am not 100% sure if that was from the factory or someone's done a water pump job on this before or something else. I haven't really looked deep into that, but I would say someone went happy, very happy and crazy with some silicone trying to seal something. And maybe sometimes when somebody puts silicone on top of a gasket when it doesn't need it, and then you end up causing problems like this. So do not let excess silicone get in your system or at all. All right, so I've got this loose, but what I do is stage that pin just like that. You don't have to take it all the way off, but it needs to be up and out of the way. If you see this thing snap in, you'll see the barbs come down. That's what's locking it on. So this is what I use, just a little pick ring, enough to get it under there. Something just to pry it up out of place so it's staged. Now there is a couple index parts on there you'll have to get lined up. Get those lined up, and then should cedar all the way. Get your thumb on it. Yep, good to go. Tab here. Then we might be harder to see. We've got this one to hook up, and then the right side to the right top of the radiator. So let me get this down in the slot here. We've got the mounting bolts, so I'm just going to get these things together and we'll move on. All right, I'll do my best to explain this. Our compressed air line in the green, this is nothing but an on-off valve for the compressed air to go through this space, out this hose. I'm just tucking it underneath the reservoir right now. So as it passes through here, because of this mechanism here, it's going to create a Venturi effect to draw with it from here. Right now this is open, which means that Venturi effect by this bypassing will create a vacuum in anywhere open. This is closed, going to our coolant, so it's not going to create a vacuum here yet, but since it's open, I'm creating a vacuum through the blue. You'll see it reflected on the gauge. So inside the tank and the entire system, radiator hoses, heater core everywhere in the system is getting a lowered pressure, lower than atmospheric pressure. So we're getting a vacuum in the entire system. Once I stop pulling the vacuum, I'll shut this off. That'll be off, and then once we turn this, that will let it equalize by pulling coolant into the system. So let me get started on the first run of this. All right, so for some reason I didn't hit record on the first bottle that I did because of these gloves on, but we'll go over this part again. What I'm going to do is open this up. So I've already got this open. Let me go ahead and let the compressed air through. Right away you should start seeing vacuum. That means we're creating a negative pressure, or lower than atmospheric pressure than out here than inside. So we're going to let that build. Once we get up pretty good, I'm going to turn this valve off. Let's go ahead and fill some. So I'm going to go ahead and shut this off, shut off my air. So now we have a sealed system. Both are closed, which means this negative pressure here is inside the blue hose and inside the whole coolant system. And as soon as I turn this coolant is going to want to equalize and go to that lower pressure. So let's watch it run. It's flowing well. Now as this coolant flows in to the system, that's going to fill up that space and take up the pressure inside, and this will end up coming down to where it equalizes, or my coolant is going to run out first. Now if you see some jumping on the needle, that is most likely because you've got some places where air bubbles came out, and that's a little shock, a little bit in the pressure system because something equalized super quickly. Let's say it's up in a turn somewhere in a system and that got released. You'll see kind of a quiver on the needle. Well, I actually had to take a little bit out. I had got a little bit more in there than I wanted. And we may still have an air pocket, but what I've done here for a test for a little bit is put the vacuum on it. And it's been holding that for like 15 minutes with no other bubbles coming up, anything. So I think what I'm going to do now is go ahead and do a test run sitting here at the shop. I'll leave the air intake off right now over that, but just let it run and warm up. Put the regular cap back on the bottle or the tank there. Get it up to temperature and just see if we get another belch out somewhere. Test it a little bit more. So everything's looking pretty good. All right, some good news. Besides some wetness you may see on the top there, that's just for me doing the last little bit of top off before I did the start, after all the vacuum filling, but I see no leaks anywhere and it has stayed good. I'm at the max. So next, I've actually already went ahead and put that on. So if I've got to put the air filter back in and the intake on the front of that, but all that's hooked up. But what I did do is set up the front grill with the louver system. In other words, it's got the louvers inside. Can't really see that well. They're kind of open right now, but I need to go ahead and hook these up. Engine code, because air temperature sensor, and it's affecting this. So I just set it up here to hook it up during the test run. So really, as far as the coolant system goes, I'm gonna say done. I didn't go for the test drive to get it really run hard yet, but I think we may do that tonight for supper and go on a date somewhere or something. But the other thing I got to do besides that is I've got all the air dams, diverters and stuff to pin back in place, and probably some new clips on some of them. That one's good, but some of the other ones are not. So I'll put all those back in place, then I'll set this back up here, get it in place. But then remember from the beginning of the video, whoever installed this, I'm going to put a Deutsch connector on the end of this and put a plug, tap back into the headlight system with a proper connection on there. I cut out this other wiring crap stuff that someone had done. Just got it out of the way now. I don't have time today to fix that too, but I'll call it a success. I wish I had a time. If I can have time, I want to throw up a diagram maybe at the end that kind of maybe shows the process and some of the bolt locations. I mean, all those things. But hopefully I did enough during this over many days and lots of breaks in between to give somebody a good idea. But have a good day. I'm going to say, why did this end up actually as an okay project? Did I get frustrated a couple of times? Actually, I really did. But again, because of a couple of times, I don't say it lightly when I say I stopped and prayed before I started working on this, but it's been over several days, so there's several times I had to stop with that. But this is a Saturday morning, and I actually got time at 6 o'clock this morning to get up and do a little bit of Bible study and work on something, and actually wrote a whole sermon this morning that just came out. It's been eating me up inside. I said, I got to write the notes on this thing. It's really coming. So I've had a tremendous day. And even with that, I got prepped up for it, and I still got frustrated with a couple issues while I was dealing with this. But I recognized it early and said, take a break, and not just pray about it, but I have to realize God gave me a brain and gave all of us a brain, and we can figure this stuff out if we use that side instead of getting angry or upset. And it worked. And if we come across a problem, we may just don't rig it, get the right part, do the right thing, all those kind of things. But I'll call it a good project, and I can't wait for my wife to drive this thing again this evening, and I'll feel great. So you all have a blessed day, and let me know what you would like me to take videos of. Larry does stuff. That's what I put it out as a YouTube channel, and it's a little bit of everything. There's going to be some sewing coming up, actually, for the fire department for some chainsaw chaps. There's going to be, I don't know what, just all kinds of cool stuff. But hope you all have a blessed day. It's Saturday. If you haven't attended church in a while, find a place to go. Find some good fellowship and a good message. And shoot, who knows what we can all do together. But I'm still a Ford guy, pretty much, but I am brand loyal to no one else for a company. It just happens to be what we've typically stayed with. But then I've got the Dodge out there to the left with 350,000 miles on it, close to it. And I've had a Chevy Blazer 75, lots of different ones. But learning new systems here, other connections and things. But good luck with your project. And again, like for the 5th time, I'll tell you, have a blessed day. Bye-bye. Well, I decided to throw this in here too because honestly, the last step for fixing your wife's vehicle should probably be to clean it. So it's been sitting out there for a while, for several days, and probably got some coolant on the front and all that, but she just deserves better to get it back. So here we are, and then I have questions while I'm still here. Like, I'm not really sure what the difference between washing, I'll get in here now, but washing and cleaning, there's something different there between those two things, and all kinds of stuff. There's some other color foam that'll come up that I don't even know what that stuff is. But anyway, I think at the end she deserves to get a clean vehicle back. I didn't get to do inside. It really needs some dusting and all that in there. And there's still an engine light. I'll reset that, but that is from the some of the sensors in the front being unhooked while I was doing stuff. I still got to reset it. But everything looks good with everything. But we're just going through a good rinse, and I don't know, it's always kind of fun, actually. Like $10, you know. But anyway, the job's done. I think I feel good about it. It was a few more steps than I'm used to for other vehicles over the years that I've worked on. And there's the colored stuff. What is that? I think it's I know it's foam, like a surfactant type of a I don't know, get grease off and all that. But I think the color stuff, of course, is just to make us feel better about it. I'll leave the windshield wipers on, but anyway, I'm going to carry on. We're getting this rinsed off, going through all the steps. She's going to get back a clean vehicle and one that works, and that's really all that matters. And then we're going to head out to eat tonight with some family that has come back in town, and the local family here. And she deserves to go in this truck, you know? So that's what we're going to do. Good luck on your next repair. Take care. Bye-bye.